Hello and welcome to Wrestle Opinionated, our weekly show all about the great shows of AEW. We are your hosts. I'm Morg, and this is...
I've not come up with a witty nickname this week due to illness, so I'm just Matt Strange this week, I'm afraid.
Oh dear. So how
Shit. Yeah, man, good. I've been... Well, I've had a bit of illness, and our next door neighbours have been a bit noisy, cut me off on sleep, so I'm a little bit, let's just say, relaxed but grouchy. I'm on that, like, sort of awful midpoint. But otherwise, pretty good. Been playing Streets of Rage all week. Well, Streets of Rage 4. It's worth a pop. Have you been doing?
Not too bad. I had some extra days off this week because I forgot to cancel some holiday for an event I should have been at.
Oh.
So I've been catching up on playing my Dungeons and Dragons online, and we finished Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Oh, wicked. How was the ending?
Really good. Really, really good. Really enjoyed it.
I mean, obviously there's only so much they can change, I suppose, realistically.
Yes.
You can't really expect there not to be a giant... Just give me a second. From what I know of Final Fantasy VII, a giant meteor angel goddess and a one-winged man who stabs your girlfriend.
Pretty much. And the one-winged angel, of course, is quite important.
Little bit of a reference there.
Yeah,
thrown out to the AEW community.
Yeah, that's why I figured we'd get away with it. So this may be your first listen to our podcast. And if it is, we have a tier system on how we rate the matches and shows. And Mr. Strange will now explain his tier system. So over to you, Mr. Strange.
I mean, I may have forgot to come up with a fancy nickname, but I did not forget a tier list this week. Can you guess what it is, Morg? Can you guess what I'm comparing wrestling to?
That's right. No idea.
That's right. It's militaristic warlords of the classical and medieval eras. A little bit of history with your wrestling. So obviously it's based off the Japanese computer game, which has gone through to various YouTube channels, which comes from the Japanese school system. A tier list going from D through to S. D being bad, C being standard, so on and so forth. So a D rank match, I'm not quite getting what I want. Yeah, there's not a full experience there. Nobody's turned out happy. You've just watched some wrestling, and you could have spent the time anybody else. So in comparison to this, we have Caracalla, the super military Roman emperor who achieved nothing other than getting some German attacks on Rome. It's why you've never heard of him. He pretty much existed, got in with the boys, and achieved nothing. He was a waste of time, just like a D rank wrestling match. C rank is your standard wrestling match, something where you're entertained, but it doesn't quite win you over into that full heart and soul way other things do. So I've gone with Pyrrhus. You may know the name Pyrrhus from Pyrrhic Victory. Pyrrhus was ranked as one of the best generals in history by Hannibal Barca, the elephant's man who attacked Rome. He won every battle that he was in, but gained no ground. He was great, but he never quite tipped that scale. You know what I mean? You know of him, but you're not overwhelmed. B, we've gone more towards the medieval. This is where we're looking at somewhere where we've got a bit more combat wonder in our battle soap opera of wrestling. We've got some story. We've got a bit more heart. So I've gone with Black Prince Edward of Wales, who obviously was abandoned in France, like behind enemy lines by his father, fought his way out like fucking Rocky comeback, is renowned through British history. He was in A Knight's Tale. Solid story, solid combat. Everybody's happy with the Black Prince. An A rank match is where everything is done well, but it just doesn't quite have that character to push you over. You've got a good story, you've got solid wrestling. Maybe one of them's exceptional, so you don't need the other one too much. A bit like Trent and Kenny a few weeks back. So obviously an A rank conqueror, an A rank warlord would be Alexander the Great. He's known as the Great. There's quotes about him in his Salt Tears. He built an empire from Gibraltar to Punjab. He revolutionized the phalanx. He had character. He had skill. It all fell apart when he died. But that's not relevant to wrestling. But that's our A rank. And obviously in S rank, you have the perfect match. You've had build-up. You've had story. The match itself is phenomenal. You see character work, maybe limb work, just to tell the story. And there's no better ancient warlord than possibly my favorite person in history, Temujin Genghis Khan. He took horse nomads. He took an average thing and made it beautiful. He raised the match quality of Mongolia to an empire that actually surpassed him. And he could cut a promo. I don't know if you know much about Genghis Khan, Morg, but boy, are you learning. One of Genghis Khan's attributed quotes is, "I am the flail of God. Had you not created great sins, God would not have sent a punishment like me against you." That's a top tier promo there. So that's the S rank perfect match. Character, success, looks beautiful. The Mongol Empire. A little bit of history with your wrestling today, Morg.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
I had to cite into Muir, our Roman history expert, to compare some. And I was like, what about this Roman emperor? He's a real Rome fanboy. More on that in the future. Maybe I'll do a tier listing of Roman emperors inspired by Nick.
Maybe we'll have to get him on the show.
Yeah, bring him in. He can talk about Rome, mate. He can talk about Rome. So, yeah.
So now we are over to what news we have managed to garner this week from AEW. And I believe you've got a couple of pieces to start us off with.
Yeah. So obviously, last week I pointed out, we pointed out that Cody was going for the trademark on his name. And I believe that was being opposed at the time. It isn't. WWE is not opposing Cody Rhodes' name. He's also gone for Dusty Rhodes' name as well. I don't know about that one. But they are definitely opposing Slamboree and Match Beyond in Cody's endeavor to tie up all of the things his dad invented. We've had a lot of good people doing hard work in the system. Apparently, Tony Khan has been writing pretty much everything with just a little team of his own. And Super Chad Ultimate Tag Team, the Best Friends, did 4 matches in 24 hours for some of the tapings, which, once again, I've only done 2 sessions of wrestling of like a couple of hours each, and that hurt like shit. So doing 4 matches in 24 hours is pretty good.
Yeah, that sounds like one hell of a thing to put yourself through. And especially as I would imagine at least one of those matches was not a subtle sit down and have a kill match.
More on that later.
Yeah. So other news. This one's kind of, I think, is going to be AEW related. I'm just going to pull up the article for this one. So, according to Fightful, former WWE star Matt Cardona, otherwise known as Zack Ryder, recently applied to trademark.
Is that his real name?
Yeah, to trademark the terms "Internet Champion" to use for merchandise sales and all pro wrestling exhibitions. Cardona crowned himself the Internet Champion during his True Long Island Story YouTube show, a series that helped him get over with the WWE Universe and eventually led to his run as United States Champion. He's also applied for the trademark "Always" with a Z or a Z, ready for merchandise sales and all pro wrestling exhibitions, a hashtag term he used to promote himself during his WWE stint. Now, the reason this is interesting is Cody was asked a while ago who's the guy that he would poach from WWE, and the guy he would poach was Zack Ryder. They are friends, very good friends, and Cody's always worked on the assumption that Zack got himself over back with the True Long Island Story, and if you can get yourself over once, you can get yourself over like that again. And WWE did nothing with it.
I know the name Zack Ryder, but I don't really know who he is. But yeah, I know him enough that I could. I recognize the name. So and I've not watched WWE in a decade-ish, realistically. So yeah, he's over. If he's known in other wrestling circles, at least just by name, then. Yeah, he's done it himself.
Yes, and he'll. I think he'd be a good acquisition. I think we'd see him weekly. I I can see a place for him. I don't see him as a main event guy, and we're back to the discussion we mentioned last week about TNA booking.
Yeah, but mid card is the best card. It's. I stand by this. The more WWE, the more AEW and different wrestling I watch, the more I'm reminded of the 90s of how much I enjoy the mid card. You know, stories.
The thing is
people
to have
care more.
Solid card all the way up, and you want everybody vying to push themselves. So you want them to want to be the top guy, to challenge Cody and Kenny and have those kind of matches. But yeah, so I have a feeling that we may be seeing him.
Not Heath, though.
No, apparently not.
Just tie that piece of news in by sliding that on the end there.
Yeah, you've got that one. So apparently Cody has said he is not interested in Heath Slater.
It's not all friends wrestling, is what he said.
Yeah, and I think that's fair, and it allays the worry that we were talking about, whereby AEW will just snap up everybody who's been released.
Yeah, hopefully they're just going for the more indie guys. Does that make sense? The guys with that shade of dirty small arenas and black shorts.
All the guys,
stencils,
the guys who can get themselves over. So moving on from that, I think that's all of our news for this week. So now it is and we've changed the title this week. It is our Twitter / social media of the week. Over to you, Mr. Strange.
Okay, so once again, slowly learning Twitter, and obviously a lot of wrestlers aren't as active as each other at the moment. So we've adapted into Twitter and social media of the week, and I don't think there is a better representative of modern media than little Sammy Guevara. He probably weighs more than me. He's probably taller than me. I'm only 5'9". Sammy's always active on Twitter. He's always active on a selection of things. If you go to his Twitter page, nothing like mind-blowing, like he's not the greatest comedian, don't get me wrong, but you can tell he loves the industry. There'll be loads of fucking clips of wrestling, shared stuff, things shared from other people, other wrestlers you might not have heard of. Notice how we brought Joe Alonzo sort of into the fold of AEW. I'm putting that down to Sammy. That's how it's been sold to me anyway. There's some in-character shit posting, obviously. He'll harass Brandy and shit talk some of the others, or have a bit of a back and forth commentary with Jericho. But we're mostly here to talk about Sammy's vlog. So I don't know if you're if you're listening from the wider internet, if you follow much of the YouTube stuff, but obviously on the AEW Dynamite shows, we do see Sammy with his phone vlogging himself being a twat quite a lot. All of that footage is on Sammy's vlog, which you can find on YouTube. Lose the ability to speak midway. And they're actually really good. Like, they're normally like 15 to half minutes to half hour long. You'll see a variety of behind the stage stuff. You'll see Sammy doing some in-character shitty stuff, some out-of-character stuff, fucking about with his mates. There's skits. You get to see lots of the business. There's weird cameos, particularly Team Brit Heel, who seems to really get on with Sammy. Marco, who is, from what I can tell, one of his best mates. You can see them power bombing each other into like their beds and stuff in the hotel rooms. Alex Marvez and Justin Roberts have been on the last few now, and he normally has a moment shit talking them. Also, you get to see Justin Roberts at home, and he goes from being like this suave businessman type to this man-bunned, mustache, bearded guy, and he's henching up, and he just keeps doing Macho Man promos, which brings me joy. He does lots of giveaways, so whenever he does the in front of the camera board sign word thing, I believe it's based off a film, where he holds up the cue cards and talks to the screen.
I think it's Love Actually.
That's the one. He always gets those signed by wrestlers who are there, and then he'll just give them away to people who share his stuff on Twitter, Instagram, etc. So yeah, if you're a social media followy person, if you want to see some more bits of kind of what it's like to be not in 80s wrestling, because let's be honest, that's what pretty much all of the behind the scenes things tend to cover. From a young up and coming wrestler, not as much as I love all of our established heroes, that little bit of a different life between a 20-something-year-old and a guy in his late 30s to 40s. So yeah, follow Sammy. Go have a watch. There's a lot of good videos, a lot of very genuine interactions, some comedy bits, and you get to see people like Joe Alonso and a bunch of the other enhancement talent we've seen, like talking, chatting about wrestling, things they love. So yeah, follow Sammy. Have a look at him. It's actually really interesting, like a weird. I suppose that's what a vlog is, like a life diary. I'm not a vlog person.
Yeah, we've started watching it occasionally, and it is quite funny. It's got a little bit of that being the elite to it as well.
Yeah, like he'll take the piss, but he's not going full into meta jokes and stuff. I suppose he doesn't have like that creative control of the company to sort of get away with it as much.
Yeah.
But I do enjoy watching Jimmy Havoc assault random people on it. I love Jimmy Havoc.
So that's a nice little segue there. So into our review of the week, and our week starts off as always with BTE, and discussion here is, as always, is this a BTE you should have watched, or is this a BTE that they should have put stuff on the main show from? What did you think of BTE?
It was all right. Like I rewatched it today, and some bits I really enjoyed, and some bits I was just sort of with. You'll have to apologize to the Raptor for me. I'm really not feeling the Luchasaurus looking for his tail arc. It was nice to see PJ Black though. So
she's saying this is a very important. This is a very important storyline though for those dinosaurs left wandering around, and it deals with a lot of dinosaur modern day social issues. So we're probably not the target audience, but yes, she thinks that's a very important storyline.
All right, okay. Well, as as long as it's over with some people, doesn't quite get me. I love the cult doing the book bit. That made me really piss. When he just talked over their advert about himself, that was great. Obviously, there's the Sky Signal, but I think we'll move into that. And Jake the Snake. He is awesome. He's phenomenal. I love him. More Jake promos at any time and opportunity, if I'm honest.
Yeah, all I've got for my notes is BTE-FTR.
Yeah.
This was an episode worth watching for a payoff. It had an after credits scene. It wasn't after credits, but it had that moment. It had a little mark out scene for me. Definitely should watch it. And it looks like we are finally going to get the match that the Bucks and the Revival, now the Revolt, have wanted to do for a while.
Oh yeah, that was opposed. They tried to claim the Revival.
Yeah, that's right. I think the Revolt's a better name, actually. And I think Fear the Revolt is much better.
It goes with the Revolution, the AEW Cody shout thing. It works. I'm down with it. It just means we won't hear Cody saying "fuck the Revival" as much in BTE.
It'll be "fuck the Revolt" instead.
Yeah,
no,
fair.
They can still shout "fuck the Revival."
True.
From BTE, we move over to Dark, where we did have an audience yet again, or as we refer to him, Austin Gunn, the one-man crowd.
He works so hard for him.
He is awesome, and his dad. They are so good.
Anybody who loves wrestling that much should still be in the wrestling industry, or should be being raised in it. Basically, they're the perfect little man family, manly.
Or they can give off that and to realize that their job is to be a crowd and to be a crowd supporting baby faces. You hear a lot about not being a mark, etc. When you talk to people, when you read things about the industry, and to see two guys who play it properly. No, we are the crowd. This is our job, and just be a crowd. They add so much to it. 2 matches.
I love that attitude.
Yes. So we had 2 matches on this. What did you think of Dark? What was your overall score? We only usually give Dark an overall.
Right, so my initial point was 15 minutes in total. I'm not expecting a lot. I went in with low expectations. We rocked up with the Captain versus Havoc. Jimmy Strikes looked good. I was pleased it wasn't a squash. I was expecting just a just a one-way stomping, but it was actually all right. The captain is not afraid to eat a bump. Holy shit. And a lot of the fact Havoc always does limb work. Like, he actually comes across as somebody who is in a wrestling competition. It was fine for a short match. I was entertained, didn't blow my mind. It was good. I made a note it was 6 minutes, which is just outside the 5-minute squash limit, I believe I shouted about in the past. Then we had Today's Jobbers versus the Best Friends. What were they called?
So it's Musa and Lee Johnson.
Oh, yeah, no, because I thought this was going to be terrible. I've just got a bunch of comments like, Jesus, that guy sold like hell. Trent's top rope Northern Light was fucking immense. There was some good counter offensive. It wasn't just a squash. There was just that little bit of offensive counter fight. And that little bit of extra time to make it look like they're actually a challenge makes so much of a difference. So, yeah, it was good. Like, not great, but I gave for 15 minutes, I gave it a C. For those 15 minutes, I was entertained and didn't hate myself.
Yeah, I think you're pretty much right. It was a good episode of Dark. The limb work, etc. I think part of that is Havoc being a British wrestler. There's a lot of that sort of old school style in British wrestling.
Yeah, very much so.
I think it's the kind of thing he would have learned. So from a short Dark, we are on to Dynamite. Dynamite opened with a Darby and Cody video promo, and then it's Siobhan at Tony Schiavone, bloody Jericho's fault, and Jericho on commentary yet again. What did you think of the video promo? Did it rate a score?
Well, first, I'm just going to open with my opening note on this page, which is just so we don't have to do it repeatedly throughout the discussion. Jericho's amazing. He puts everyone over. He's always shouting about Pineapple Pete and people in the crowd. Never forgets anyone. Everybody sounds bigger for Jericho talking about them. 5 stars to Jericho. He's amazing. That's out the way now. The intro promo. My notes on this are actually quite short. My first comment is relentless. Do you know what that means? Yes, Darby. It's a drink. It was good. It had some weight. It was solid. I'm not quite in the Darby Allin target group, so to say, but it was still good. I gave it a B. It had a strong feel to it and led into a good match, which we'll be on to in a moment. Yeah, it's good to see a bit of work on it. I assume you loved it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good promo. I thought it was a good setup, and it gave Darby his chance to talk a little bit. Then we moved into Cody versus Darby, and this is a TNT Championship Tournament semi-final. Cody wins by rolling through as Darby lands a coffin drop. What did you think of the match? What score did you give it?
Okay, right. So start at the beginning, the best place to start on a story, with what I really enjoyed. Had solid limb work throughout. The Brandy hit looked good and actually was really sold and added to Angry Cody with this character work we've seen of him sort of being a bit of a psychopath. And obviously we've had a more aggressive Darby overall. And I'm really enjoying the slow evolution of both their characters, where we're seeing a bit more of an angry edge to them. Don't get me wrong, Darby Allin is edgy as fuck, but he's got gained a little bit more psychopath over indestructible, not crackhead, shall we say. I'm really enjoying Cody's repertoire of moves at the moment. You're noticing it's just like a constant cycle of really random things, like he's a different edition computer game character every match. I just think that's really cool. Darby maintains. I don't put him on the Phoenix Flippy man scale anymore. I have now just rated him the most rolly man in AEW. Because, Phoenix does the bounce, spring, blah, 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 yeah, blah, blah, all that stuff. And Pac's like Phoenix, but normally on the ground, where he can just spin through like 720 degrees from standing. But nobody quite rolls about like Darby Allin. He's like a Dex build Dark Souls character. And it's a wonder to watch. Not so keen on his leg headbutts, though. I think they look a bit silly. Getting into the slightly negative as we go towards the end of the match. I don't like leg headbutts. I mean, it's nice that they're involved in the limb work stuff, but nah, quite with it. There'd best be some shit talking of the Crossroads coming, because it's only been terrible recently. It's been consistently not a finisher, so I'm hoping that leads to something a bit more exciting. I mean, I'm still really enjoying the match by this point. The ending kind of didn't get. Like, are you immune to the coffin drop? The one of the mega finishes we've got. If you just sort of rolled through it, like maybe if Cody had got his knees up and like caught him on his back and then rolled him into it, or something like that. But instead, he just sort of ate it, and they went, "Nope, cheeky pin." It confused me a bit, and I think it could have been done a little bit cooler. But overall, good storytelling, great intro promo. I gave it a B. I had a really good time. It's just that ending sort of threw it for me.
I wasn't a fan of the roll through the coffin drop. I think what they were trying to go for was the old WWE he stole one, which they don't do in AEW. They don't treat a roll up as, oh, he stole a win. They treat it as a legitimate move, so that when you use a roll up, you catch the other guy off guard with this move that they're almost protecting WWE's booking with it, because they're sort of going, yeah, and if you get a roll up, that's because it catches them off guard. That's what that move is. It's the move that comes from out of nowhere that you don't expect and catches you out. I think that's what they were going for with it.
It just didn't look quite right.
I didn't like it, and it was a bit confusing. I didn't like it off the coffin drop for the same reasons that you said, pretty much.
It's a finisher. It's been shown to be a consistently badass finisher.
Yeah, it dropped it down for me to a B. I agree. I think it was a B match. Would have been higher. I'm biased because it was two of my favorite current baby faces. So, that it was riding slightly higher already for me anyway.
Yeah. Well, we're both agreed then. So, yeah, solid match, good build-up, but just that weird ending just sort of cost it.
So then we had the second part of the Scorpio Sky video promo, all about his history. What did you think of it? Did it gain a rank?
I wrote, didn't we do this last week? And superhero music, and then just wrote fine C. I can't even remember much of it. Like, I appreciate some people are probably really into this documentary sort of, let's find out about his backstory sort of stuff, but I mean, we could have done a different wrestler this week. We could have been working through SCU,
That's not a bad call, actually. I think that might be a thing they should do. So, yeah, it was all right.
Give a bit of heart to a selection of people. Scorpio's very inspiring, but
I mean, it's babyface building.
Not as inspiring as Big Swole.
There has been other people, or we'll come back to that in a second. There have been other people on the internet who have suggested Scorpio Sky is a good shot for a guy to have mini feuds like they did with Jericho, but a guy to have mini feuds with the world champion, because he can have a good match and he's solid. And when you've got the backup of the other two, even as baby faces, you can have them cheerleading him. Or if SCU were to turn heel, then you've got that numbers advantage. So I think that's a bit. So Big Swole is inspiring.
Yeah, we had the her speech, her video package when she was first coming to the main Dynamite with her like struggles with I have some severe illness. I believe it was cancer or something. I don't want to say it was definitely this because I don't remember the whole.
I remember now. Yes.
And she's a single mother and such. Oh no, she's not. She's married now, isn't she? Yeah, no, she's married to an NXT person, I assume.
I think it's Cedric Alexander. He's main roster. I think.
Oh yes, he's Jumpy Red Shirt Man.
Yes, I think it's Cedric Alexander. Currently in a tag team with Ricochet, because WWE don't know what to do with their jumpy guys, so they just stick them in a tag team.
Yeah. So yeah, give us more different inspirational video packages. Somebody else. Lots of them have had issues and diseases.
So after that, and I'm pretty sure I know what score this is getting, there was the MJF promo. What did you think of the promo, and what score did you give it?
In all honesty, I think you think I've gone for higher with this. It was fine. It was entertaining. The little comment of Max's rat's apartment at the bottom was very MJF. Unfortunately, it's just MJF being MJF now, so I don't want to say he's downvaluing himself because I only gave it a C. I was like, yeah, it's good. I can't wait to see MJF again. But as opposed to like the Jake promos, where every time it comes in with like this different sort of there's. I think Maxwell Jacob Friedman needs people to interact with to really get that his fucking asshole up, and it was good. The shaving injury and the big collar, but just not amazing. It didn't blow my mind in any special way.
Fair enough. I rated it higher. I thought it was about a B. I thought it was really funny. It was classic heel work. It was MJF, and the bit when it drops down for the shaving collar, it popped.
Yeah, that was
that was just I was like, oh, that's hilarious, and how he'd overcome the hangnail, and the hangnail doctor had said, this was the worst, and I really enjoyed it. So after MJF, as is now standard apparently, we had a Wardlow match, and we had Wardlow versus Musa, and Wardlow wins. I believe it was with the F10.
I criticised it at the end. Ruth reminded me that Musa has been in before because he was in the tag team match with the Best Friends on Dark. Is that the right one? He's definitely been in it before, yeah. So I wrote his name down. He gets, he gets his name now. The opening slam was ludicrous, just massive. Musa did the rope bounce thing, a little bit like Son of Havoc used to do. He bounced back into like a kickflip thing. That was pretty badass. Then the spinning F10 didn't throw him very far. I've seen some top-tier man throwing lately. I've seen some top-tier man throwing from Wardlow. And he didn't even break like, a mid-tier giant wrestler's throwing, let alone a Lance Archer or Wardlow throwing. So that could have really been the only thing which saved the match, and it let me down. So the overall thing got a D for being a terrible squash match.
Yeah, I had a feeling that was coming. So after
there wasn't enough counter-offensive. Sorry.
Yeah, it was very squashy. After that, we had the latest Bubbly Bunch. What did you think of it, and what score did you give it?
All right, okay. So I'm not really into this sort of thing. We covered this with the dance last time. Ruth was really laughing. Ruth was having a great time. I was just like, Twitter things. I know some of these people, and they started going into non-wrestlers. It was nice seeing Lou Ferrigno. Hulk. But otherwise, it just didn't do anything for me. But Ruth was having a good time, so I gave it a C. I was like, this is the sort of thing people who are not as jaded as me really enjoy. Better than last week's.
Yeah, I mean, this is a riff on the whole TikTok thing that's going on, and this is a TikTok thing that's going on a lot at the moment. This whole idea of having a lot of people having a fight and you cut to somebody else. I quite liked seeing all the different people. I liked seeing, let's be honest, it was Jay and Silent Bob. It wasn't Kevin Smith. They were in character, which I think's better when you're on a wrestling show, personally. I'm a Kevin Smith mark, so I'm always going to pop for seeing Kevin Smith on something.
Whereas I'm a jaded anti-everything man, so I'm just like, celebrities, even though they've been involved since like the start. I think I'm too cynical for it. I think that's my problem. That's why I gave it a C. I was like, well, everybody else seems to have a good time. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm as old as my hair makes me out to be. Who knows? I'm very grey if you've never seen my hair. I went grey at like 14. It's not good.
I don't know. It looks quite cool. So after that, we had the next match. We had Jimmy Havoc and Kip Sabian with Penelope Ford versus the Best Friends with Orange Cassidy in a no DQ, no count out match. The Best Friends win when Chuck T pins Jimmy Havoc. What did you think of the match, and what score did you give it?
Chucky got his pin. Yeah. My first note is Trent is always 10% in Japan. Have you noticed he always just hits or sells that little bit harder or spins over something or just goes into something a bit too much? He's always 10% in a Japan match. There was a fucking ludicrous ladder guillotine. Just pretty solid. I had a good time all the way through. One of my criticisms was we didn't see a lot of Chuck. Like towards the start, Chuck got taken out, and then he just wasn't in the match for ages. And he came back and got kicked off the ring, and I was like, "Oh no, Chuck is dead. Oh, this is how it ends." There was a little bit of Jericho bringing up the Luther Jimmy Havoc storyline. Do you remember the Luther Jimmy Havoc storyline?
Yes, I do.
Did you really remember it, or did it sort of come back in a little bit when it was mentioned?
Well, no, I've been confused because Jimmy Havoc suddenly turned heel, as far as I can tell, and gone from the tweener version, which was where it was looking like he was going to be a babyface versus Luther. So that's the only reason I've remembered it, is because I've been a bit like, yes, but aren't you feuding with this guy who's an absolute dickhead heel? And therefore...
Luther's like 60. He can't go to AEW at the moment. Not with the corona. I suppose they've just tagged out the two people they know who get on, who can work together, and you've got to ride what you've got, I suppose. But back to the match. How good is Trent's Tornado DDT? I think I talk about this every time. I love the tornado.
I mentioned this to the Raptor when he did it.
It's such a cool move. I love it so much. There was the kick onto the chairs. That was, oh god, yeah, where he picked him up. Oh, on the chairs. Then was it Trent on the chairs, and then Kip drop kicked him into the chairs? Or was it the other way? Either way, it was fucking horrific. I shouted, "Oh god," a lot towards the end. The Orange Cassidy bit was a good bit of fun. Him having his little back and forth with Penelope and such like. Yeah, it was a good match. It was a good hardcore match. Nothing was overdone. I shouted, "Oh god," a bit, but I didn't, hate myself for watching it in like tides of blood, or there were no ludicrous weapons like a bed of barbed wire that somebody knocked up before the match. Everything came out of the ring. I think Chucky could have been a bit more involved, but he did get the win. So yeah, I had a good time. We had a build-up story, obviously, so I gave it a B. But I've written it's an A in my heart because Cookie got the pin, but it's a B.
I was all ready to do the new best friends rule and have to downgrade it. But no, I agree. Actually, yeah, I think high B as well. I thought it was a good physical, no DQ style match with lots of nice little spots.
If we'd have just had a bit more of it actually being a four-way and not most of it being 2-on-1 on Trent, then it could have possibly actually got an A. But yeah, otherwise, I had a really good time. I was entertained.
So after that,
more best friends.
After that was the Britt Baker video promo. What did you think of it, and did it deserve a score?
I know that me and your partner disagree on this because I had a great time. I thought this was brilliant. I'm really enjoying heel, twat, Brit, mean girls, her new identity. I love the fact she's just got pictures of Tony Schiavone around her office, like if there was a best friend, and like her posters were like Britt Baker, dentist, also a wrestling superstar, and there were motivational posters of herself. I laughed throughout, and like all the throwing of shade at Tony really made me laugh. So I gave it like a high B into an A just for the turnaround on where she's gone and like the mistreating of the staff and things. It's like Girl MJF, but a different slant of American high school culture, basically. One's a jock, the other's a mean girl. Yeah, so I'm loving it. Do you enjoy them?
I thought it was okay. It was... I find the kind of bullying promo to be a bit cringy more than anything else. That style of... And having been watching WWE for a while, where they only ever write the mean girl heels, I've become a little bit sort of bored of that kind of gimmick, because that's all the WWE, because they didn't have a female writer for ages writing any of the women's stuff, and they've just let go the female writer they had that wrote the Otis Mandy Rose story. That was a really good romance story.
Yeah.
One of the first times in ages. So yes, possibly one of the reasons that myself and the Raptor are not quite as involved in this is because we've seen this character a lot when we were watching WWE. Britt does it well, and I like the fact that she's the only one they've got in AEW.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose you could put Penelope as well, but I think Penelope's something slightly different. I don't think she's quite the mean girl character.
She's like edgy, cool girl. For me, Britt having the posters and stuff is what really took it over to that comical level of just bullshit twat. It's almost like in a role-playing system, I played a character who did nothing but talk about himself and put pictures of himself up. So maybe I'm projecting into Britt's character with the hyper arrogance.
So after that promo, we had, and it's time for your shameful love to come out. It was Sean Spears versus Baron Black, and Spears wins by submission with the sharpshooter. What did you think of the match, and what score did you give it?
He got permission from Brett to use the sharpshooter. Just an interesting little fact there.
That's cool.
Once again, I started with a sarcastic name for the match. So it was Sean Spears versus, I missed his name, but Jericho was on the mark instantly, and instantly called him out as Baron Black. We've seen him somewhere else before, but I can't remember. I've lost my notes. The match was solid. Spears is always in character. I don't have a lot of notes on it because it was quite short. It was a good match. I was entertained. Really good finish with the sharpshooter, and I gave it a C. Like there wasn't enough to really blow my mind in any direction. I remember going, "This is good, this is solid," and then it was sort of over with a cool moment. Really good character work. The Baron at least, got over and did some cool stuff. I'm sure I wish I could remember where we've seen him before. He might have been in a previous Dark. He was one of the people who sent a video in to be in Sean Spears' tag team.
A
very good way of getting some extra younger, unknown talent to come to your company, isn't it? How I think about it.
Right. Well, we all know that Sean Spears' tag team will not actually happen until the lockdown has stopped. And then, of course, it has to be Simon Miller from What Culture.
He has to represent us, boys from the internet. Here's why.
Gimmick infringement. So yeah, after that match we had, what score did you give that in the end?
I gave it a C. It was solid. I'd like to rate it, but the fact I don't have much more to say over it other than that was some good wrestling basically just puts it as like a mid C.
That's fair. So then Taz has another one of his little moments where he talks about Lance Archer's finisher. What did you think of this week?
Right, I've not ranked it because I'm still in confusion over these moments. Because you remember when we were first doing these with the Rax crayons, I thought it was satire and you didn't. And I thought it was hilarious because I thought it was him taking the piss out of these sports bits. But then we had the serious one last week with the actual technical graphics, and I lost interest because I was like, oh, it is real. Oh, I can't enjoy this. But this week, the only arrows we had was when Lance Archer has him up in the crucifix position. I forgot the name of his finisher. This isn't good. You do a wrestling
Blackout?
That's the one. So he's coming back and he was like, the only arrows, which were repeating arrows going, was, and then he looks down to see where he slammed it. You can't tell me that's serious. It has to be satirical. It has to be.
Or Taz was really struggling.
Well, when the only action you can do is point him down, you could have at least done how he manages to spin him from a crucifix onto his face. But if it was satire, I'm giving it a C. If all this turns out to be serious, it gets an F. Until I've got hard facts from Taz, I can't possibly know.
So after that, we had a Marco Stunt promo. What did you think of that promo?
Not a lot of notes on this. Just solid, really good. It had weight. Like a lot of people shit on Marco for being a small guy. A lot of people compare Marco to Rey Mysterio as a small guy. I don't think that's quite fair. Rey Mysterio is a magical being spawned from Mexico to bring joy to the world. He's more of a Spike Dudley, but people don't like that comparison. But this actually gave him like weight. It stopped me thinking of him as just being just comedy. He came across as actually having heart, and I will be beaten and I will get back up, blah blah blah. Yeah, really strong. I gave it a B. That was a really good Marco, and a nice moment for the Jurassic Express to actually get some speaking in whilst they're all nowhere near the locale. Until next week.
Nice to see that Marco is a good promo, doing a serious one, not just the silly stuff that they normally do. I really enjoyed it. I totally agree. So then we had Marco versus Brody Lee, and Brody wins with a sit-out powerbomb. What did you think of the match, and what score did you give it?
I've got to go and start with Ruth's quote, because Ruth really hates Brody's coat and she bitches about it every time on the screen. And this time it was described as, it's like he's got 8 giant nipples on the front of a lab coat and I don't like it. This was the squash match. In fact, I don't even know if I can count it as a squash. I don't know how long it was. But this is the kind of thing I actually wanted to see from Brody. I mean, obviously, I would have preferred a more regular wrestler-size opponent. I just shouted "oof" and "ouch" a lot. Ruth screamed for a bit. She just went "ah!" Brody Lee entered the man-throwing contest. Some of the slams and some of the moves that Marco ate in that match genuinely made me feel uncomfortable. I gave it a C, and I don't even know if it's a squash match, just because it actually felt like Brody Lee was in a match for the first time, and he felt monstrous. Because when you're stopping a counter-offensive, it's better than just beating a man.
I also think
I'll talk over you.
Sorry, you've given him a name now with Marco, and we know Marco's this strong underdog. I'd like to see Brody against somewhere down the line. I'd like to see him against Darby, because Darby's got that. I'm going to call it the Jeff Hardy thing, and I know Darby isn't, but he's got that Jeff Hardy "I will not go down" thing. How much you beat me, and I think that's our match for any of our 3 monsters. I think Darby is definitely the setup for any of those 3, and I think both will come out looking strong.
Yeah, definitely.
I think the reason it was Marco in the match is because Vince McMahon hates small guys. I think it's another, but a much more subtle Vince McMahon reference.
We'll have to see. Marco hasn't fought Wardlow yet, so if he fights Wardlow next, we know it's just a cycle of Marco fighting the biggest, strongest people. Yeah, possibly more on that later, I suppose.
So after that, we had a Mox promo. What did you think of the promo, and what score did you give it?
Yeah, it's nice to have not Comrade Moxley back. His hair's a bit of a mess, isn't it?
Yes.
It was a good promo. We've got old Moxley back. He didn't go on about it being our belt. He said some weird shit. He was threatening. It started better than it ended. The grandma joke didn't really get with me, but I can see why it's funny with weird violent Mox. I gave it a B. It was solid. It was good. It wasn't quite the paradigm shift promo, but I'm happy he's coming back. I'm happy we're getting the Moxley we were kind of first shown at Double or Nothing, that then became Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah,
budget,
I actually made notes on this because I thought it was a much better promo, and it was more of the kind of Mox promo I liked. Both me and the Raptor really liked it. It was less of the people's champ and more crazy badass. And the grandmother joke is very much
what we wanted.
Yeah, and it's what we've both complained about, I think, last week. And also the grandmother joke. I did pop for that because it was done in such a good way when he was being intense. drop a joke at the end, drop a slightly silly
Yeah.
at the end, and that paid for me. It made me giggle. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. What ranking did you give it?
I gave it a high B,
Yeah.
but it seems to. I'm having fonder memories of it now. I think back about it, but that's because I have watched a lot of wrestling stuff recently.
Yeah, I thought it was one of his better promos since he's become the champ.
Yeah, no, definitely. Having that hint of Moxley, who told Jericho that the Inner Circle was a stupid group, is exactly what I want back. I want little weird, snarky comments and threats of extreme violence.
But apparently his wife's in a bit of trouble with WWE because he appeared in the background when she was videoing for WWE backstage.
Fuck off, it's his house.
Yeah. But apparently, yes, apparently she's in a lot of trouble for it. I'd been wanting it to happen. I'd been saying every time they show her sitting at home, I just want to see this figure walk round the back. Even better if he had the AEW championship over his shoulder. But I think that would have got her into serious trouble. I think him just having to go for a pee,
Unfortunately, it's a fight WWE can't win because AEW is quite happy to have Adam Cole and I don't know the name of Moxley's partner and people in the background show up and be in photos with them because they're mates. Or the hints of John Morrison in some of the BTE scenes. But WWE fucking hates it. So it's a fight they can't win.
So after that, we had Lance Archer versus Dustin in the TNT tournament semi-final. I've just got this down. Lance wins. What did you think of the match? What score did you give it?
This is my longest noted one. So Lance comes out punching a man. Always going to pop for that. That will always bring me joy. Shades of Suzuki-gun, or as they're becoming Taishi-gun, I believe. That's a different one I'll have to explain to you at some point, but Lord Taishi is essentially a Phantom of the Opera supervillain man in Japan. Look him up, he tears his trousers off and sings on his way to the ring. He's awesome. Doesn't sound awesome, but it's awesome. But back to what I'm actually meant to be reviewing. Archer's worked on his no-sells. Like, he actually swung with some of the punches, laughed them off, turned back in. I walked in going, you'd best eat shit, Dusty. And I got a better match. I got a good match. I wasn't expecting a bad match. That's unfair. As I shouted out Trent's Tornado DDT, I've got to shout out Lance Archer's misdirection, which is when his opponent bounces off the ropes and he goes in the opposite direction and then fucking spears them flat and dead. Obviously, it's a match with the Rhodes in, so Dusty's got to bleed. Can't win a match. Can't be in a challenging match as a Rhodes if you don't bleed, like every other one. They weren't quite as smooth together as I'd have liked. Makes sense though. Like most of the other people Lance has fought have been to Japan, where he, has made his career since TNA, whereas Dusty has always been American WWE boy. Oh no, he did. Oh, he did have a dub stint.
Yeah, he started in WCW. He started in WCW.
Didn't he go back and get called something like Zero or something like that? Or was that in TNA?
He also went to TNA and was Black Rain, I think.
Oh. So yeah, that's probably why it wasn't as smooth as I'd like. Starts off a little slow, a little low on high spots. It's nice to see Dusty's Code Red / Canadian Destroyer actually done on somebody who's the right size for it, so it looks good. I didn't hate it for the first time. The bit of a Dusty comeback did help, gave it a bit of story. Gave us a bit more length to it. We got to, once again in this episode, see that Crossroads are shit. As Crossroads can now officially take out nobody. It's just not a move. The tight walk moonsault thing, I think, was a nice way to show off some of the more agile stuff Archer can do, as we've not seen that. Sometimes he does it all the way, like around 2 ring posts, and it looks too much. So it was nice when he did it through the 1. There was a bit of a slow 3 count at some point. I've criticised that. I'm not quite sure where. And the turnbuckle taking off and the smashing made Archer look like a fucking beast. I'm in, and the fact he just tore it off like giant Lance Archer hands, beautiful lips, giant hands. Then I assumed Cody was going to run out and give him Cody power to give Dusty that push with his family, but no, Archer just beat his face into the floor. So at the start I wasn't quite as much with it, and I was worried about the pacing, but the brutality of the ending brought it back to being a good B for me. I had a good time. I think Lance looked like a monster. He's beaten up Cody's brother now, so obviously we've got a bit more story for that coming. So yeah, a high B. I had a good match.
Yeah, I thought it was good.
Not as good as it could have been.
Yeah, I didn't expect a bad match from these two. So last week we said we'd rather that they switched the two matches around and put the Dustin match on first and the Cody match on last. Do you think that we should have done the same again this week?
Right, so the issue we've got here is, because I've been thinking about this because you mentioned it to me the other day, the Cody match I would say is a better overall match, but had a weird ending. Whereas the Lance match was not as good a match, but had a better ending. And panning out to the bleeding man is good. Adds extra brutality to him. But if you'd put him in early, you could have possibly thrown in a Jake promo or something just to add that weight. It's a hard call on this one. Would you have swapped him?
My immediate thought at first was maybe, because I thought the Cody Darby match was better. But having thought about it and with a bit of hindsight, you couldn't have it the other way around anyway. You had to have the Lance Archer match at the end. The only reason I would have put the Lance Archer match at the beginning was if you were going to have Darby go over and not Cody.
Yeah.
And then you could have had Jake sort of suggesting that Cody hadn't tried his best, so he didn't have to face Lance at some point in the future. Actually, I think it was the right way round. I think you're right. I think that ending was much more solid. You always want a good match at the beginning and a good match at the end. You want to grab them, and then you got to keep them.
And we go from youngest roads to oldest roads with a win to a defeat. From an overall like story looking arc, it makes sense in a sort of theatric way. Now I think about it, with my zero like theatre or drama knowledge or skills beyond being a film elitist.
But that's the thing. So, what is your overall score for this week's Dynamite?
I think we've got a B again. It's not quite a solid B as it was last week, where everything was B. But, we had some high spots. We've had some things which I enjoyed that you didn't. You have had some things which you enjoyed a bit more than me. But overall, all the wrestling's been solid. We've had a good time. We didn't hate the Brody versus Marco match. I think we've got a B again. That was a good, strong episode. And
my notes say another good
I'm
Dynamite.
looking to back in.
Yeah, and I'm looking.
This is what I expect. Just this is how we started before we had a bit of a wild ride with some shitty episodes near the start. Before we started reviewing, or did we? No, we've had a shitty episode. I've criticised one of them. I gave it a D.
Yeah, we did have a bad.
Not this week though. Watch AEW.
Yeah. So that's our review of the week. Now it's time for our rant of the week. And Mr. Strange, I believe this is over to you. Are you ready with your week of having been ill to go on a rant?
Yeah, I've got some notes. I think you might need to jump in on some of it because obviously what we're going to discuss you've seen more of, but I'd say it's more of a sad commentary than a rant this week.
It's fair.
So we've covered this a couple of times. When old WWE wrestlers go to AEW, everyone, I'm happy for them to have their one whinge about the old boss. You know what I mean? There was the Moxley said things about being held back. We had the old men not believing in me from Brody was a fucking awesome intro. But you've got to stop poking the bear, Cody. Now, I know a lot of people like the obvious Triple H chair smash at the first pay-per-view. I thought it was tacky as fuck. But Ruth laughed at the over cliched of it. And then we had a bunch of things of, there's no invisible barrier, I can come get you, and we're not in that other place now. Then obviously we had my personal favorite, one of the little snipes, the old men not believing in me, which has slid into being a McMahon character. Now, I don't see all of these, you do. I don't get them all. And they could arguably just be evil businessman as business things. But then you got the sneezing one, and the sneezing thing is a thing he does really dislike, from what I understand. That's actually targeted. And even if a bunch of them don't seem noticeable to me, they seem noticeable to you, Morg, and the established WWE fan base, because other people have commented on them. And if they look obvious to the WWE fan base, then Gary Busey, Grade Insane, Vincent Kennedy McMahon, who is a legit crazed millionaire genius, is going to think it's aimed at him. And then you're going to incite him. So when you are going for slamboree, I don't even know when the last time WWE used the word slamboree. I had forgotten the word existed.
Never, when you're going, my knowledge.
Really? It's an old WCW license, isn't it?
Yep.
Probably. So when you're going for that, of course he's going to oppose you. You fucked him off. You fucked off the crazed millionaire. Sure, give everybody one. Let them make their snarky comment in their first promo or their one thing in the ring. Have one. I don't think anybody's going to begrudge you one. I think Triple H will understand you having one, like all of his mates famously left and went somewhere else. But right now, Vincent Kennedy McMahon is close to being Nero in his own empire. Vincent Kennedy McMahon is making all manner of morally objective choices. Vincent Kennedy McMahon is friends with the president of the country you're in, and is going to be an advisor, and is a millionaire who has successfully destroyed all manner of different wrestling companies in the past. And sure, you've got your own millionaire who could probably buy Vincent McMahon and pay him to do demeaning things. That's how rich he is. You don't need to provoke the McMahon. Get your one comment in. Just leave him alone. Leave him alone and let him do his own things, because that man will burn himself to death to scar you. And I honestly believe that. Vincent McMahon is a grade of insanity which is spoke of only in like Victorian storybooks. A level of like Dickensian madness. Stop provoking him, Cody. Get your one comment in and walk away, because angry bearded parody man of Vincent, even if that's not what he's meant to be, is not going to help you get them blood and guts or match beyond licenses. They've already got blood and guts. And, this is a man who will fight you for your father's name. Leave WWE alone. And so, that's... Yeah. You might want to add to this. You know a little bit more.
I think you've covered it beautifully. Stop trying to poke them, because when you poke them, it makes you look like you're trying to. Yes, they are. AEW are competing with WWE, but they're not. They're competing with NXT.
Yeah, they're nowhere near big money WWE. Yes.
Yeah, but they're competing with NXT, and it is the correct WWE promotion, whatever, for them to compete with, because they've got that. They both have that sort of similar style. I haven't watched NXT in a while. I have been quite slack on watching NXT. I usually catch up on reviews. They've not been good. So,
oh no.
Yeah, currently you just stop going up against. Stop making me think about WWE when I'm watching AEW. That's exactly the other thing. I want to watch AEW. So yeah, just quit with it. So that's our rant for the week. AEW, please stop poking WWE. Yes, it's funny. Yes, it used to get a big pop back in the 90s during the Attitude Era. but
different eras now. There's
it's
so
diff-
much wrestling. It's not
Yeah.
just one channel against one channel. It's it's not Vince Russo's personal bro hate fest anymore. As I said, everybody gets one snarky one. I'm down with that. That makes sense to me. We all bitch about our old boss, but making it's the repeatedness that is costing them. Oh, I think that's our rant.
Yeah. Now we're over to our questions. Now, we haven't had an email this week, but we have had a question. You see, so this is from my lovely partner, who you have heard to refer to as the Raptor. So she would like to know, so a couple of weeks ago, we did our picks for the people we'd steal from somewhere else and bring into AEW. She would like to know, how would we book them into AEW? So just quickly run through the names. It was Kota Ibushi, John Morrison, or Johnny Mundo, Johnny Nitro, or Johnny Elite, Oscar, and Ember Moon. So how would we like to see them brought in?
Well, shockingly, I've got one which has more detail than any of the others, and one which has less details than any of the others.
So I'll let you lead off with Kota.
Okay, so obviously I know more about Kota Ibushi than just the Golden Lovers plotline, and one of the current favorite things of Kota Ibushi is Terminator mode. Kota Ibushi, I believe I sent you some gifs of some of his punches to the face of Okada and stuff, and some of his no-sells. Basically, when Kota Ibushi is a weird wrestling loving man who hates lettuce and books because they put thoughts in his head, and he's sort of played like I don't want to say a simpleton because he's not played as stupid, but he's played as a very eccentric, not the best educated man. But when he gets hit in the head so many times, he goes into this proper Terminator fucking mode. So I think we play on that. We possibly bring him in with a manager. I've not got a perfect one to mind, but we bring him in as this Japanese mega wrestler. We give him a promo package showing some of his fucking ludicrousness, and he's brought in by this manager, not by AEW. So we don't see any of the past with Kenny, or unless it's the match with some of the matches where he's beaten Kenny. He doesn't speak to Kenny. He's acting very like cold, professional. Maybe he is doing some of the comedy stuff, but whenever Kenny's Kenny's like talking to whatever, he just goes cold and dead into like Terminator mode. And then we can have Kenny do cutaways to Kenny talking about their past. And then, when it finally brings us up, Ibushi could be like, "You left me and I have grown stronger." And then we sort of bring the Golden Lovers back together, because obviously Ken is a different man now. He's no longer the cleaner. He's no longer this top game machine. He's shown as being top of the card, but he's not the one he was in Japan. And you just bring Ibushi in as this wrestling machine, because Ibushi can do everything: standing corkscrew moonsaults, Liger bombs, moonsault. He's just real good. And I think we play from that, because that's just the start of your arc. Kenny's lost friend is brought to the company, and he is doing nothing but destroying. And then obviously you see where you want to go from that. Do you have Kenny turn on him, and then them come back through fighting in a very anime sort of story? Do you have Kenny win him back through the power of friendship? So that's how I would bring Ibushi in. That's my Ibushi is strong enough on wrestling to sell himself, and strong enough in character acting to sell that. But you are going to need somebody to basically Paul Heyman / Brock Lesnar him. But as opposed to this is a very square man who does 5 moves, you have this man is an incredibly terrifying Terminator machine, but also a tragic backstory with lost friend curly hair Kenny. So that's my Ibushi. What do you think?
Yeah, that's pretty good. I think that's fairly solid. So I've got Morrison, and I would be... So we're going to steal... They have mentioned a certain show that you and I have never watched but both love, called Lucha Underground.
Never seen it.
There was a worldwide underground in Lucha Underground. And I think that so how I would bring John Morrison back in is I would bring him in with the Hybrid 2.
Oh, the old connection.
Yeah, I would bring him in with the Hybrid 2. Now, I am undecided as to whether we turn them face and we have a new face faction, or whether we keep them heel and have a heel faction. Firstly, they're going to be mid-card, and they're going to be funny.
Yeah.
John Morrison, who will be Johnny Elite, is going to be brought in as their mouthpiece. Now, this is a bit of a cheek, this one, because I am going to cheat slightly, because I'm going to bring somebody else in as well.
Oh.
Because I'm going to bring Tyre in with him.
I am shocked. I am shocked you would bring Tyre in.
His wife, I believe
Yep.
They are now married. Yeah, she's been on Being the Elite. She's currently, and I think that foursome works really well. You've got the new, and you've got a lot of options there. So part of me would like to bring them in to stick somebody else with Jimmy Havoc and Kip Sabian to keep there. Maybe you can bring Luther joins with them or somebody else. But
we get somebody good.
Yeah, somebody can come in and join them, and then we can have the Hybrid 2. As I say, we can have a face turn. I am thinking, actually, you bring them in as a face group.
I wrote Face Johnny because I miss Face Johnny from Lucha Underground Season 1, and we never got to see his full return to Face Johnny. And that Casey Jones / Jack Burton Johnny is wonderful, and I love him.
I think the funny, wisecracking mayor of Slamtown as a babyface, because the crowd will be in on it. So you're in on the joke that he's playing a B-movie hero. If you know what I mean.
He can get on with people like Marco and stuff, because obviously having that goofy hero sort of good to the little guys and stuff as well. And he's really close with at least Luchasaurus, so I assume he knows the others.
Yes, I mean he trained
Goofy action hero.
Yeah,
goofy action hero Morrison.
Yeah, along with and I would turn the Hybrid 2 face with him just to give him a faction. If not, just bring him in as the goofy action hero and bring him in with Jurassic Express. But I don't think what they're doing would benefit. I think he would be better off coming in with the others. Excuse me, minor cough. So yeah, I would bring him in as that kind of, and I'd bring them in mid-card. We know that he's got the potential to move up, but I would move him up slowly to that point, because you can start building him and move slightly away from the goofy side to the more serious side, and possibly have the heel turn Triple H styly, and have the heel turn when he takes the World Championship.
I have to remember the Triple H heel turn then. It's been a few years. Like I said, I wrote down action hero. I put with a bunch of others. Maybe the friendship team with like Marco and doing a face turn on Sammy and basically winning over all the young kids in a kind of Johnny Mundo, Casey Jones sort of action hero sort of way. I think we're on a very similar page with this one. I think we all miss Face Johnny.
Yes,
he was the best.
And yeah, I think he does, and I would like to see him have that chance to have the run with the top belt. I think he deserves it. He did all the work to work, because he always said he wasn't very good at talking, and you couldn't tell that if you watch Lucha Underground.
No, he's that little bit of director. Well, he's done like a short film and some TV stuff, hasn't he? The old John Morrison, because he really wants to. I think he really wants to be a film star.
He always he wanted to do a lot of acting. He went to a lot of comedy improv and stuff like that, and comedy improv lessons to improve, because he knew that the thing he needed to work on was his talking game, was his promo game, and he said that in interviews. So who's your next? I'm guessing you've taken Oscar for your next one.
I have. Shockingly, I have not really written about Ember Moon, as I don't know her character at all, and Wikipedia was not very helpful. So I went with Asuka, and let's be honest, Asuka has strong enough personality, is well known enough to pretty much come in on her own merit. You don't really need to do much selling to get Asuka in. And I was pondering bringing her in as like a straight heel because everybody kind of loves heel, shitty, crazy Asuka. But I decided that it's kind of a bit. I think she'd do really well with like an Americanized Odiotai, which is the stable I went on about a lot when we were looking at our bookings, and they're the lovable losers of Stardom. Basically, they're face painted up, weird cyber goth stuff, dancing competitions, promos where they all sort of snigger and laugh amongst themselves and just fucking let loose. It's very Joshi and it's very Asuka, and Asuka already kind of has that reputation. So I think you bring her in first with some Joshi on Joshi matches, because then they can go full Japan. And I don't know if Asuka's really had a chance to go full Japan, but when Joshis fight Joshis, it's magical. But maybe she goes like the old Kagetsu sort of way and starts to build her own Odiotai faction. We're talking the... I mean, I've mostly thought of it as a female faction, but obviously it could spread over because intergender is great, and one day we will see it. So I think she starts growing up, building this sort of losery asshole. I'd say losery in a good way, because the Odiotai is sold as it being a positive thing. You know, they're people who don't give a fuck. They're basically Stardom LIJ. So she can beat a few of them, and then maybe start once she's beaten them, or she recruits them into a faction. Not necessarily going for belts, but going for good fights and going for people that kind of wants to test to make this new Joshi style alternative faction. Obviously, they don't all need to be Joshis. B. Priestley, obviously in Stardom, well known, actually a member of Odiotai. She could be recruited. Same with Jamie Hayter. I was thinking possibly Yuka, just because she's got that little dangerous, crazy psychopath thing. And I was thinking basically the first proper female faction we get, led and built up Asuka as like the figurehead. Just, the alternative, not quite heel, but not face, crazy, slightly asshole-ish people. And that was my my build for Asuka, just because I think we need a female-led faction. An actual banner, so we can get some division between some of the female characters, which, let's be honest, we've been lacking and we've criticised several times. So that's
interesting.
My faction leader.
So I guess I'm kind of cheating a little bit here, because I would book Asuka and Ember exactly the same unless Asuka is already in AEW. Now, if Asuka's already in, then Ember needs to just take the fight. See, I wouldn't mess around with Asuka. I would have Nyla Rose. There we go. I got it right, because I've been getting it wrong repeatedly and calling her Nia. I would have Nyla Rose staying on her tear. Nobody touches her, even Big Swole. Everyone they're setting up. And then you have that classic heel promo whereby nobody can beat me. There isn't a woman on this roster. There isn't a woman in this building who can touch me. Lights go out. Lights come up. And on the big screen, there is just a mask. Because she's got to take that mask thing. It'll have to be slightly different to the WWE one, because I'm guessing they've got a trademark on it. But yeah, just a mask. And then have it flash out. And don't debut her yet.
Okay.
Now, if it's Ember Moon instead of Asuka, similar thing. Instead, you just hear a wolf howl. You also have it, if it's Ember, you have it known, because you've got to know that she's been released. You just hear a wolf's howl, because that's kind of links into her sort of gimmick, the sort of almost werewolfy type thing.
I said I've got nothing for Ember.
Yeah. But I'd mainly concentrate this on Asuka, and you have Asuka come in and she just destroys Nyla Rose. They get the match set up, and you have Asuka destroy her, and you go back onto the Asuka is a badass. During this time of Asuka being a badass, she becomes more and more heelish to hold on to the championship. You actually steal her NXT storyline that never got finished because she got legitimately injured. So the actual storyline never got finished, and you steal that storyline because it was really good. And so Oscar's gone from being the face, you can have her destroy, but then she starts coming up against people like maybe some of the stronger baby faces, like Big Swole, like Chris Statlander, and Oscar's cheating to win. And then you almost do exactly the same story. You bring Ember Moon in.
Okay.
As the person who had her number somewhere else. You can reference WWE, you can reference NXT, the person who had... And Ember does have my favourite women's wrestling finisher. The Eclipse is a thing of beauty. It is a top rope stunner.
Oh, cool.
Where the other person, the other person is standing, doing the confused, shaky thing, stunned video game character, and she leaps off the top rope and drops them with a stunner over their head, grabs their head, does a stunner. So yeah, I would book Ember. It requires Oscar to already be there.
I felt bad. I didn't want to bring Oscar in as a top person. You know how essentially the worry of bringing old WWE people in to take the TNA thing we talked about. If it's like that, but with an extra share of Joshi for me, just because all the Stardom training wrestlers are just getting over here, and this new star's coming up. I felt a bit bad just going, and she comes in and taking the spotlight from people who could have risen up. That's why I went for a faction over a.
I think Oscar she is something special. It would be like AEW getting John Cena for me. Oscar she is something special, and I think you have to book her as something special. And the thing that WWE have repeatedly fucked up. Oh, by the way, WWE, Vince is really high on Oscar again.
Oh, that's good.
For the second time, he's really high on Oscar, like he was last time when he gave her the belt, and then she just dropped it straight away to Charlotte. And like when she came in and Charlotte ended her undefeated streak.
Didn't Charlotte beat her and Shirai in the same match?
Probably, yeah. The person who is probably leaving, WWE is no, it wasn't Io Shirai in the same match. It was I'm having a mental blank. It was her partner in the Kabuki Warriors, Kairi Sane. The Raptor has just whispered it over to me. Kairi Sane apparently is looking at leaving WWE.
Oh.
There have been lots of tweets going, you should leave WWE, and she has been liking those tweets.
I did a little man clap there just because, I've seen her wrestle Pentagon Dark and it was beautiful.
Yeah, so next week, of course, we will be doing how we would book Kairi Sane into AEW. But yeah.
How we would fit the entirety of Lucha Underground into AEW.
Pretty much. Yeah, so I think Oscar's special, and I think you book Oscar strong and special. You make her that top, and you do exactly the same story as you've just done with Nyla Rose, whereby the top person finally gets dethroned, and you can have Oscar being the top person who finally gets dethroned. If you bring Ember Moon in on her own, I can see a faction, and I think it would be her and Chris Statlander. I think they would work really well together as a kind of a Strange with Ember's sort of supernatural gimmick and Chris Statlander's alien gimmick. I would actually make a small faction maybe with those two, and maybe somebody else. I would like to see Orange Cassidy in it, to be honest, but he's tied up with the best friends.
He's not the best friends. Yeah. They are literally best friends. They live together and everything.
Him and Chris Statlander apparently appear to be really close friends as well.
Yeah, they're really, really close. So much so that people were checking they weren't seeing each other because Chris Statlander's actually got a different boyfriend or whatever. It's just it's unusual in. It's unusual to people too. The idea that people could just be friends, I suppose, especially when there was a little bit of a connection arc pushed on BT. I'm not going to be disingenuous. It was built up that they were very close, and you can lead into things that way.
So yeah, that's how we would book. Do you have any other comments on booking Ember or anyone else?
I still think we need an Asuka stable with her as Kagetsu, if I'm honest. But I think we could go back and forth on that one all night, working out the ultimate
Well, as I say,
combination.
the opposite thing would be that you have Oscar in that stable to the left, and you can do the Nyla Rose thing, and you can bring Ember Moon in instead, and have her be the one to topple Nyla to a massive baby
As long as we
face
get
response.
Terminator Ibushi, I'm happy.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think we're done.
Okay, so yes, we would like your questions. Please send us your questions. We are wrestleopinionated@gmail.com, or you can tweet us on the Twitter, WrestleOP1. We are also WrestleOP on Facebook. Feel free to follow us on there, message us on there. If you'd like to hear how we would book, if you'd like to hear our opinions on, if you'd like to give us something to rant about, please do. Please send us messages. We love having ideas for new stuff.
Nothing to improv with. I'm best on the fly.
Yeah.
To be honest. Discussion. How would we do a second show, Morg?
Yeah. So there's all the talk about AEW getting a second show. How would we do it, and what do we think about it as an idea?
I am note slim on this.
So what's your ideas?
I said I've gone note slim because I was thinking we'd go for more of a bounce backwards and forth. I couldn't come up with a clever explosion name, as C4 is a finisher and Semtex doesn't sound right. So I've called it TNT Massive Explosion. Just
yeah, I like that.
And I essentially started working from the kind of product we've got. And although AEW Dynamite has its indie Japan hints, it's definitely more aligned with the traditional wrestling style. You know, it's a shade different to what we're used to, but it's still close enough to a regular wrestling show. Which I mean WWE, obviously, because most people who watch wrestling now probably don't remember WCW in the growing things. And AEW is obviously at the top of the organization. It's very much a Cody sort of project. So I figure we send over the Bucks and Kenny to be the lead star / founders of this of I don't know, Thursday Night Massive Explosion. Because Cody's fine. He's got his Nightmare family. He's obviously the most directly businessy based of them. And I know Kenny makes a lot of the decisions, but can be erratic. And I believe Kenny and the Bucks are closer just from how much you see them together in alternative media. Cody will sometimes pop in, but Cody's normally doing, Cody things. So I think we take this second show and we go more into the cruiserweighty, hardcore, indie Japan style. We make our second show a bit more like NXT for AEW, if you know what I'm saying with that. We can have a hardcore belt. We can throw in more TLC matches. We could possibly if you're making it that bit more of the foreign style of that bit more thing, and we can throw our trios belt in there, as opposed to having all these different selections. We make it a bit rougher, a bit more groundwork facing, a little bit more open arena, sticky floor. That's my basis. I was going to see what you had and see where we went from there.
See, now, that's interesting. See, you've gone for almost the SmackDown Raw as was when SmackDown was the wrestling show and Raw was the sports entertainment show. I would like to see the second show just be an expansion show.
Okay.
So there's a lot of talent that doesn't get stories all the time.
Yeah.
And I would like to see more stories. So you're not just cramming. You say you'd have 4 hours. So we're going to assume it's another 2-hour show, and you're going to.
Sorry. I thought you were about to say it's a 4-hour show. I was like,
no. We've got 4 hours over the course of a week to tell our stories. And the one thing I would avoid is I would say if Cody is going for X, Cody's story gets played out on Dynamite this week, and Kenny's story gets played out on Massive Explosion. And then
so
the next week, you switch it round. So you have a reason. If you're a Kenny Omega fan, you have a reason to watch both shows because you never know who's going to turn up on which show. There's a lot of they've already got quite a decent sized roster, and cycling people out is good because if you don't have people on every week, then you get to miss them, and I like that. I like
just so you know, I'm 100% on board with continuous stories about both. That is 100% something I agree with. I'm not going to contest you with that at all.
Yeah, but you can have more stories going on.
Yeah, you soap opera it better.
Yeah, but you've got more time to tell those stories. Now you can have, and I would have wrestling match related to Cody's story. So when I said that Cody's story happens on Dynamite, that's where his wrestling match happens. His promo happens on Massive Explosion sometimes as well. So and vice versa. So you do cross over in bits.
Because obviously not everybody has enough time to watch everything, but as long as they're really good with YouTube and their other content. I've actually got some promos I've missed from this week to watch. So yeah, as long as they're doing a clip show, because obviously not everybody will commit straight away. But yeah, no, I'm with you. Carry on. Sorry, just talk over you.
Or I did have the second thought, which is if they were going to do a show that was completely different, you let Matt Hardy run it.
Oh God, just go full
show to Massive Explosion is the loop, but that can affect. So Dynamite becomes the sports and the sports oriented. You will get the more sports matches where the rankings happen. Massive Explosion is where you get the crazy storyline stuff. You can still have matches, and you can still have promos on the other one, the crazy, but you could have that AEW cinematic universe.
I mean, I've been talking about having a cynical meta, how I'd watch a cynical meta show for fucking since we started watching BTE, if I'm honest. And yeah, I suppose you have the lightly ludicrous show, but just tie it in. I suppose if you always leave enough as a weird canon obsessee, if you leave enough leeway in the crazy bullshit and stuff, it's never going to affect the other show. I was keen on not having like separate belts or that really big line divide. Like
no.
I've seen enough this show versus this show to last a lifetime. I want wrestlers from one show to be able to just go onto the other show and have a match. You know? Yeah,
it's all about the story.
But then you could put 3 of them hardcore on one. Just saying.
But I like your because I want it to be so that it's a continuation. It gives chance for the stories to breathe, for wrestlers to breathe. So you can have a big roster of people, and people can have a month off, and it not feel like, because when they come back it'll be big. So you get chance to miss them, and you've got enough television.
And you can bring it back all the way.
Yeah, and you don't got to cram people. You can have slightly longer matches or slightly bigger promo stuff, so you can tell more stories as well. That's the advantage, I think, to them having. I do think having a second show will be good. Currently, I worry whether they've got enough content to fill it, but they do have enough. And of course, they've got to bring all these wrestlers that
thousands of WWE wrestlers now.
But there's also all the other
indie talent.
And they've also got deals. There is a rumor. I was going to quickly mention this. I haven't watched the video about it, but I have seen a rumor online that we might be getting Ring of Honor versus AEW. Now that kind of one versus the other, I am completely down with.
They're different brands. They're different entire companies, and it's got a really sort of nice. Like Marvel versus DC feel to it, if I'm honest. Like we know loads of them are there. We know they had a bit of a breakup with Ring of Honor initially, and that they're probably, they're healing things. Unless the second show is they buy Ring of Honor.
I think
pretty cool.
But
that Khan money.
Yeah, that Khan money. That's what I'd like to see. I just want to see it used as a way for storylines to breathe and to give wrestlers time to breathe a little, and to have more storylines going on, so that when we hit the pay-per-view, and their pay-per-views are not at the end of every month, and I really hope they stick with that. I think just having the 4, maybe 5 pay-per-views a year, and I know that the money starts crawling in for wanting more, like with WWE, where you get a pay-per-view every 5 minutes.
You know what? As long as they're not on a Sunday, I'm all right.
Well, I still don't want one every 5 minutes because WWE doesn't have time for stories to breathe anymore. And you end up with the same match over 3 pay-per-views, whereas you used to have that storyline built up with Hulk Hogan. It used to build up till WrestleMania over 3 months. Certainly how it felt. 100%. And I want to see that. You can have little titles like the television championship that isn't the television championship, the TNT championship. You can have some mini matches for that. And I would also, one extra thing with that is the TNT championship, I would have it as it always must be defended. So you don't get this is a non-title match if the TNT championship is on the line.
Oh, that's a good idea. Because I'm still just dying for a hardcore belt, if I'm honest. I miss a real hardcore belt. And I think I don't want to go for 24/7 rules, because if I recall, that was entirely a joke mechanic. And as much as I like the DDT Super Heavy Iron Metal Weight Championship belt, which has been won by a ladder and a cat, I do kind of miss the good old hardcore days where, like, somebody would be walking down, in the random back area, and then you'd have a hardcore match. So I would bring a floating hardcore belt in, but make it so matches at least had to have some kind of warning, or you only had to defend it once.
Okay, this is totally different from that. One thing I would bring in, see, I wouldn't bring a hardcore belt. I would steal, and it's Lucha Underground again. I would steal the Gift of the Gods from Lucha Underground. And if you're not aware of
belt in all of wrestling,
if you're not aware what the Gift of the Gods was, it was effectively the Money in the Bank briefcase, but it was a belt. And the way it worked was you'd have a tournament, and to get a chance to compete in a multi-man match for the Gift of the Gods. I wouldn't do it like Lucha Underground. I'd do it differently.
Okay.
But the Gift of the Gods.
Magic medallions.
Yeah, magic medallions. So I would like to see. So Money in the Bank is one of the best things in WWE. And the Gift of the Gods was one of the best things in Lucha Underground. A belt that TNA did their Feast or Fired briefcases, and that really didn't work for me at all. So I steer clear of that. I would steal the idea of the belt that you can challenge for the belt at any point. So I was trying to explain this to any of our listeners who've never watched Lucha Underground. So there would be a multi-man match. The winner would hold the Gift of the Gods belt. The Gift of the Gods belt, with a week's notice, you could cash in the Gift of the Gods to gain a shot at the World Championship. So
you're not going with the 7 medallions first?
No, we're not going with the magic medallions.
I thought the idea of you had to get all 7 medallions. Okay, we could take the magic off them. We'll pretend they're not magic Aztec tribal clan things. But I like the fact you had to beat people to get all the medallions to put them into the belt to challenge for the title. I thought was really cool.
Well, you you cashed in you had a match to win a medallion, and then the medallion got put into the belt in the multi-man match when you won, and the winner of that took the belt. However you do it, I would like to see a Money in the Bank that is a belt.
I think the 7 I think we can steal all 7 tokens, because they got stolen, they got heel wins, they got actually challenged.
I don't want to steal too much from Lucha Underground.
Instead, we can steal what we want.
The bit I want to steal is I want the idea of a Money in the Bank briefcase that you could, and you have had challenges for the Money in the Bank briefcase in WWE. Edge got his second one by challenging somebody for their briefcase and winning it. And Matt Hardy should have challenged Edge and got his. But that's a rant for another day. The idea of the belt that can be used, you can cash it in to get a World Championship match, but also people can challenge you for that belt. And again, like I was saying about the TNT Championship, I'd like to see that belt has a rule that if someone challenges for you, you have to defend that belt if you're carrying it. So then you can have that story of, well, you get the belt and you want to cash it in quick before someone challenges you and beats you. Right. So yeah, Marco gets the belt. He manages to win the belt. And Lance Archer's, he's got a week to cash it. He's got a week to cash it. So he cashes it in fast because Lance Archer's coming up going, I want to challenge you for that belt next week. So, you know, well, I'm going to cash it in. So and the belt itself can become a story, or you can have someone who just holds it. You can put it on someone like Kenny, who just holds on to it until the right moment. And then, of course, you can do the thing they did on Lucha Underground where the powers that be can decide that they're just going to let you cash it in because they decide they want to, or whatever.
TNT massive explosion with Dario Cueto. What would your second show be? It's just Lucha Underground, lads. It's just just put that over there.
We've moved away a little bit from what our discussion is, but yeah, that's just something I'd really like to see in AEW. I thought that a belt that lets you challenge for the world championship whenever you wanted on a week's notice.
I mean, I just think we should just use the whole thing just because it's the most beautiful belt in wrestling, in my opinion. Once it's all assembled with the 7 ancient Aztec magical medallions, it's just gorgeous. It's got a cool design, and I don't know, I could probably buy it off eBay now. I'll send Robert Rodriguez a message.
But yeah, on the whole, I think we'd like to see a second show, and
yeah, I think so. As I said, I'd use it as a light excuse to get some of the stuff that we've been missing in. Your belt idea is really good. But we both agree with Cross, keeping the story universal. I'd like to see the trios and hardcore thrown in there, and I think you can get away with a little bit more of a meta rules lax thing if we're throwing just a hint of Lucha Underground, just a sprinkling.
So that is our show for this week. Please do like, share, subscribe. We are Wrestle Opinionated on Spotify and Anchor.fm and YouTube. We are currently having problems uploading to YouTube. It is a known issue. Other people are having it. I am trying to find ways around it that I can get the last few episodes back up on YouTube for those of you who've had to move to Spotify to listen to us. I want to say thanks to Anchor.fm for hosting the podcast, and over to you, Mr. Strange.
Thank you very much for listening to us. I do hope you enjoy our discussions, even if sometimes we do go a little bit off the side. We're talking about Lucha Underground or classical medieval warlords. Please do give us feedback. Once again, we work better with something to bounce off. We can't get angry about everything. Maybe there's something that makes you angry that I've not thought about that can also make me angry. Once again, smash that subscribe button, share the like button, ring the bell, tell your friends, tell your family, make your grandmother listen to it. Kill people in the streets and drag them along and make them click like with their button. Don't really do that one. But yeah, thank you very much for listening. Do get back to us. Do send us anything you want to talk about. All the addresses you've just been given. Thanks for your time. To more.
So all that's left to be said is goodbye and good night.